Hi, I'm Lou Scott, and this is Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you, because here we're going to explain and explore methodologies, techniques to make it easier for you to make decisions, transformative decisions, the kind of decisions Vermont needs, decisions that will enhance the way you live, the way you work, the way you play. Now today I have a special guest, and I'm excited about this whole idea. I have State Senator Terry Williams. And we're going to be discussing the issues, the problems, some of the opportunities that Vermont has. However, we're not going to solve them. We're going to do something better. There's not possible to solve a problem in 25 minutes with the senator or myself. Nobody can do that. However, so much of the laws and the policies are actually made not on the floor where people are debating, but sometimes among the senators and his colleagues at lunch, at emails, even when they're back with the constituents, walking to the hallway. That's where the basis of laws are. That's where some of the nucleus of some of the solutions. So we're going to hear that. The senator is going to share with us what I call the Army scuttlebutt. What's happening? What are the directions? What are our representatives talking about? Talking about that's going to create laws or policies that are going to make our life better. That's how we're going to do it. And I think it's exciting. It's like being, invisible, and you're hearing these conversations, and Senator Williams is going to share with us. I have about 10 questions. We may never get to them. I don't care. But we're going to cover that. But we're going to hear the scuttlebutt. So now, let me finish with all the introduction, and let's turn to the senator. Senator, pleasure to see you. I first time met you, and it's a pleasure.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready for the question? Now, let me just say that this whole concept was developed by conversations I had with the senator, okay? The whole concept of listening in. Okay, so you ready for the questions?
I'm ready.
He's ready. Question one, what's the thinking about solving the population issue? We need more young people here. I think that's a crisis. What's the thinking about that?
Well, we have to have something here for them to stay. I think I really appreciate homegrown. My grandson, give you an example, 20 years old, athlete, was on a scholarship to Castleton University, and he was staying with me. COVID hit, so he never got to play football, and I think he got sick of hanging around me, so he went in the Army. I was talking to, he's completed Air Assault School, Ranger School. He's now sitting in, probably in an airplane getting ready to jump.
Hopefully he's got regular army. Hopefully he comes back to Vermont.
Yep. But I said to him, and his girlfriend, I was talking to both of them. They're both she's in the Air Force, he's in the Army. I said, I'd really like to get you to come back to Vermont. When my son, who was 49 years old almost, said, he's not coming back, Dad. Sometimes I think it's the parents that live here. Everything I own is in Vermont. So I'm staying here.
Yeah.
But they see things that are outside the state of Vermont and they encourage our children to leave for a better life.
We have to attract people who are not homegrown here. What's the conversations going on about how we're doing it? How should we do that? Any directions like that? It's not easy. It's not, because there's a lot of obstacles.
Well, young people don't come to Vermont or don't want to stay in Vermont for the same reason that people that are older move here. They as children, they can, they get a good education, they can ski, they can snowboard, they can enjoy the beautiful outdoors. But as soon as they go away to school, they leave. And they
as soon as they see, so we're not fulfilling the newer generation's fulfillment.
Correct.
We have to start understanding that. Are we doing anything? And anybody, colleagues, talking about understanding the problems of the G generation, the X generation, whatever they call them?
I think we are. One of the things that we're doing, I'm on the education committee, is we have a partnership with the University of Vermont and now the Vermont State University campuses.
Yeah.
And part of the deal when they were in financial trouble was we need to find a way to make tuition more affordable. And once we get our children through the 4-year degree program and sometimes masters, is we got to find them employment. We got to find them well-paying jobs. You know, it comes down to housing affordability.
Yeah,
There's no
we're gonna
housing.
talk about
anymore.
that.
Right. We're gonna touch on that, but you know, once they get a job, other than if let's say go to work for the state of Vermont, and a lot of students do once they graduate from UVM, they get a job as an engineer or whatever. They won't make enough money at an entry level to be able to live here.
So the monetary, that high standard of living. You brought it up. Let's talk about the second
Okay.
question.
Yep.
The second question I was going to ask you, how do we keep young people in the state? You answered that part of it. Yeah, how do we keep young people in the state? And actually, how do we get people who are not in the state to come into the state? One of which is if they attend college, you're saying, and we make it easier for them to make whatever we're doing to nourish them, they'll stay. But many times they don't because there's too many obstacles and too much outside.
Right.
What's the scuttlebutt? What's the talk about attracting?
Nobody's really sure that I've talked to, you know, they don't have a solution to the problem. But it again goes back to affordability. You know, if you got family here, we got a lot of kids until they're 26 years old, can stay in the state of Vermont, they can stay on their parents' health care program. They live in their parents' basements. And they are not encouraged to get out like I was. I wanted to get out when I was 18 years old. I went to college. I couldn't wait to get out of my parents' house. Love them dearly.
Now that's where they can live because you only afford to pay it.
Correct. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do when I was 17 years old. And I don't know that we encourage and challenge kids to know what they want to do.
Yeah, that's true. Right. That's true. Let me ask the third question. And it's something you talked about. They're all interrelated. The housing problem. We need more affordable housing, and yet I read about these $1 million houses. We don't need $1 million housing. You may need it, you're retiring, but the state doesn't need that. The state needs affordable housing. For young people who can't afford to live here, so they don't come here. Right. What's the talk? What's the scuttlebutt?
When my grandparents and great-grandparents moved here in the early 1900s, the whole family came, they worked together, they came to work in the slate quarries. And we had natural resources. Every town had a sawmill, every town had a grain mill. The quarries were operating in West Rutland, Proctor, and Pulteney. And so they had a good living, but they went out, they actually built their own homes because within that family unit, they had skills. Some of them were carpenters in the old country. And we used natural resources that were available right here in Vermont. Part of the problem with building a house is you can't afford construction materials. I mean, a house, when I built my first house. I cut the logs. My father-in-law had a sawmill. We sawed the lumber out, and I worked with a contractor and drove every nail. My father was an electrician. He wired it. I built that house for $27,000.
Doesn't happen today.
Nope. And you can't do that for $500,000 anymore. And if you think building materials are expensive now, you wait till the next hurricane comes through Florida.
Building materials are expensive,
Correct.
And yet people can still afford to pay $1 million house.
Right.
So the affordability factor is, what's the thought? How do we make housing? How do we make developers develop? For example, I think it's so absurd. They're doing one in Burlington, I think, 300-something units that start at $500,000. But they said, well, no, we have some affordable places. 16, that's a small number, I don't know where that comes from. 16, and they start at $300,000. That's not affordable. Plus, why isn't the number 16 out of 300-something higher? That's something we should deal with. I know you can't dictate. I want to dictate. Say, look, you got to have a little more than that. How is that handled? How is that talked about? Your colleagues must be aware of that.
Let's use it right here in New York, in Rutland. There's a plan right now for, I think, 20 units. That the mayor wants. His plan is we're going to put together 20 units. It's going to be a campus. The units are going to be temporary. They're going to be built on stilts.
That's the homelessness.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's going to be transitional housing. So the people that right now are in the hotels and motels,
Yeah,
some of them
Right.
that really need that have stayed will be put into this transitional housing. There's going to be they're going to be 10 by 20 with, I think, 2 bedrooms.
yeah, I read that whole thing, but it
Right.
picks a community. We're going to talk about homelessness, a community for the homeless, and we want to discuss that. But housing affordability, I think one of the ways we can do that, I don't know whether that's, one of the ways I've been writing about it is to demand from developers that they think about the common good. That part of it should be maybe daycare, and part of it should be truly affordable. And the number of units should be affordable. That should be increased. The number of units compared to the $1 million unit is so small.
Right. Well, the total cost of this is $16 million
Of this,
of this campus. And we're talking a pretty hefty price per unit, and they're going to actually have I think it's 40 by 40 for the staff to stay on the campus, where they're going to have mental health and medical.
you need the services.
Correct. So, but it's temporary housing.
And it's for homeless.
It's not even going to be on a concrete slab.
It's
going to
not affordable housing
correct.
for
So
everybody.
if it's transitional housing, that tells me that we're going to have another layer of homeless people that need housing. They're going to come into this after we move these people into more affordable permanent housing.
We're going to discuss homelessness. So from an affordability standpoint, we're still at a loss to figure out the conversations, to figure out how we can create more affordable housing. Right. Okay.
So this could be, let's just say this is going to be a stopgap until we can build more affordable, either a complex or a development.
Yeah.
So that people can, because not only do they want to, their needs are there now, but eventually, once they get their education, they get a good paying job, they're going to need to move into bigger housing for their family.
And that, hopefully it's available.
Correct.
And this is the fourth question, which we discussed already. The homelessness. To me, it's a forever problem because you're always going to have people that the poor souls or that whatever happens, other than those who are addicted or mentally ill and so forth, you're going to have the need for that homeless community. That's one set. The idea of building a community specifically is something I think that Burlington is trying, a lot of other places are trying. Yes, you should have, and it should be a permanent community to help the homeless, because we're always going to have the homeless. That's my thinking. What's the thinking of all the contemporaries, all your colleagues, about treating this voucher system, hotel? That doesn't work. It seems so. We need something permanent, like we're doing in Rutland.
Everybody has an opinion.
So what are the opinions?
My opinion is that we're treating the symptom and not the problem. So the problem is that why did these homeless people come here? You know, are they homegrown homeless? That means that the family unit is broken down, and for somebody, my son, if he became homeless because he had a problem with his family, he's on the street. Then I believe that's my problem, and I should be able to deal with it. The people that are here, that are homeless, they're here, and we need to take care of them. But we got to also look, and we need to do a thorough analysis of what's creating the problem, and actually treat not just the symptom, but the problem.
My son is a social worker. He works for Parent Child Center, and one of the problems they see with the homelessness is so many of them are addicted. There's addiction. That's a whole set of problems, for the homeless community. And will they ever transform into another phase? I don't know. And a lot of mental illness. I don't know what they call it now, but mental illness. So that exacerbates the homeless problem. But the idea that it's here all the time, do the people accept that? Do your colleagues accept that? It's a problem. It's forever. Right. It's not going. I don't think it's going to end.
Well, I think
not in our lifetime.
The addiction problem, I think it's going to. It's just like COVID, SARS, AIDS. It eventually all went away. Now it's still there, but it's not in everybody's view. direct view.
Because things that, laws that were made.
Correct.
to make
So
it
we're
do-
always
it
going to
wasn't
have,
hidden.
right, we're always going to have alcohol and addiction problems, particularly as long as it's legal to buy alcohol and drugs.
Yeah,
But if you cut off the supply of, we're losing 200 Americans a day to fentanyl. And we have to stop that pipeline, however they're getting it. And that's not a popular thing to talk about. So there's one of the problems, if we could fix that. The other thing is that if you come to Vermont, and I've confirmed this today, you can be on welfare tomorrow, which means you get an EBT card with a pretty significant amount of money every month. And they'll put you up in a hotel. They'll give you a cell phone. Hopefully.
very liberal, yeah.
Right.
Well, we're talking, I changed the questions now.
Okay.
Let me go, we'll jump to that.
Don't throw me a
The drug
curveball.
addiction, no, the drug addiction problem. It is a huge problem. I always felt, and I lived in areas, I had friends that were dealers, okay? Yes, and I'd associate with them, and when I lived in New York, I lived in Brooklyn, and so forth like that. The money was so immense. One time I was offered, if I was to supply $10,000, these dealers had a way of using a military courier, going to Colombia, $10,000 coming back with a kilo, whatever the hell it was, that would cut into $2.5–3 billion on the street. With that kind of money, you can make anybody's head turn. Right. So the drug addiction problem is a big problem. And the basis of that problem is not the dealers, because they wouldn't be here if the market wasn't here. Okay. So what are we doing? What's the skeleton? What's the problems about dealing with the high level of addiction that we have here? Because man has always been addicted in the beginning of time.
Well, this is an unpopular opinion, but as long as we have open borders and we have fewer and fewer people enforcing the Customs and Border Protection role, that's how the drugs are getting through. And sometimes they're coming in with bad people. So as long as we get open borders, we have our sovereignty is threatened, and we're going to continue to have bad people coming into this country that claim to be homeless and they could be, dealing in drugs.
The talk is that so many of the people coming in are addicted. They're addicted.
No, they're
people.
not addicted. They're coming in with the drugs. I mean, it's depending on what news service you look at, they have the known getaways, and when they drop their baggage, they're finding kilos of fentanyl and cocaine.
Killing people.
Right.
Let me talk about the homeless and the housing costs. Let me ask you something else. What is the talk about reducing just the whole idea of the cost of living in the state of Vermont? Or is it all going to be ended up that we all have to be millionaires and nobody else is going to come?
Well, one of the things, my own theory would be, or not a theory, but my opinion would be that we cap goods and services, the price of goods and services and wages, and let the wages catch up, number one. In Vermont, the problem is that we don't have any commerce in the state of Vermont. We're dependent on commerce from outside. We don't even have contractors enough in the state of Vermont to do the work that people that are here and can afford it.
That's one of the questions we had talked about, the idea of, let me answer this question, about what can we do to increase the number of people who are in the trades. They're leaving.
Yep.
They're leaving, so the prices are going to go up. What are we doing? What's the talk? What's the talk?
This is scuttlebutt, but
Scuttlebutt.
there is a competing interest within the public school system for the public schools. The common denominator is the student population. So there's a lot of, I know there's a need to get CTE high schools, which are like Stafford here in Rutland, to get those students to actually go through those courses. Problem is they don't have enough seats. So I knew when I was 16 years old that I was actually on a college track for my career field. I didn't want to go to college. I like fixing
I want to be a trade, yeah.
I wanted to be an auto mechanic. Well, unfortunately, the guidance system in my school wouldn't allow me to go to Stafford, even though it was an
But
option.
today, the problem that is being discussed is there's not enough young people to go into the trades?
There's not enough young people that are interested in going into trades, number one. And number two, there's not enough trade schools to train them unless they go out of state. There's a system, there's a CTE high school in Barry, which is actually part of the high school there, Spalding. But it's the same thing. They're working with the high school to create more seats so that students that are interested in the trades can actually go to their center. It's a career management field, and work as a welder or a pipe fitter, whatever.
But that problem is on the minds of everybody.
It is, but it's also dealing with just people within the state of Vermont. If we could get a good CTE program in the state, that would bring families and possibly more students and young people.
Let me ask the next question. What are we doing? What's the scuttlebutt? What's the talk about the directions about attracting new businesses here? I know we have a problem with labor force. That's a barrier, and affordability is a barrier, and daycare is a barrier. But what are we doing to get businesses?
Well, we're getting a lot of entrepreneurs. I know the city of Rutland, 2 years ago, you walked down to Merchants Row, and there were a lot of empty storefronts. But now we've got them pretty nearly full. You've got young people that want to come here, to open up restaurants, ethnic restaurants. But I sometimes think that because of the regulations for the state, it kind of prohibits some businesses from coming in. It's too expensive to open.
Is that the bigger businesses? I know the hub is trying to bring businesses into Rutland and stuff. I think they're doing a good job. What the talk about getting the idea of big businesses in here? What is the direction we need? Is it combining a package of values, a package of financial incentives? All the states offer. Right? Is it more advertising? What's the talk? What are they talking about solving the problem?
Everything you just said. I know that, I'm on the education committee, and I spoke to not the commissioner, the secretary of education. They said, did you ever think about advertising for teachers around military bases? What do you mean? I said, well, there's a program in the military called Troops to Teachers. It's actually an Army program where if they've successfully completed their enlistment, they can go through this Troops to Teachers and get into a teaching college to get a degree, and they can come into Vermont and become teachers.
That's a transformative idea.
It is.
When you talk about transformative ideas that have no bias and so forth,
right.
what kind of you get cooperation or you get pushback?
I got pushback. we don't think that military veterans make good teachers. And I said,
people say that?
They said that. And it was on the Zoom. I said, you're going to have to. Well, my son, got out of the Army as a captain, went through Troops to Teachers and became a teacher, and he taught in.
That's absolutely nonsense.
Fairhaven High School, right?
What a bias that is.
Yeah.
Did he ever serve? No. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I won't mention the name of the individual, but he was pretty
Last
high
one we
up.
talk about. What are we doing? What's the talk about? We know it's a barrier for young people. We need more affordable daycare. What's the talk?
Well, what we did, we just passed a daycare bill. The governor actually vetoed it, but what they did was it didn't create any more daycare facilities or add any new daycare workers. So all it did was take the existing ones and give them a raise, basically.
Right.
So we haven't
So
solved the
nobody's
problem.
talking about developing other ones and transforming them and making every project have a daycare center or something.
We're hopeful that because the more people can participate in it, they raise it. I think it's above 550% above the federal poverty level. That they will still,
That'll be initiative to
$140,000, they can.
create more.
Correct, and more people may move here because we're gonna give incentive to open more daycares.
Because it's a barrier.
It is.
Daycare, lack of barrier.
And it may have been narrow-sighted, but I think within 1 or 2 years, that hopefully that will transpire, that we'll get more daycare facilities.
In 1 or 2 years, because the entrepreneur will be more profitable for the people that run them.
Correct.
Hopefully it will stay affordable.
Correct.
We never got to all the questions we're ready to get. At this point, what I want to be able to do is, do you have any summary of what the legislator is doing? Just summarizing it rather than the questions.
Well, you got to remember, I've only been there for a year, so I'm still evaluating the process.
Well, sometimes the objective viewpoint
Right.
you have, you come with less biases
Correct.
and less comfort levels.
Right.
More.
Right.
This is the whole reason that I know when every time I did a writing, you responded. Many of your colleagues don't respond. They cross me off. They don't even open my email,
Right.
which I think is not a very smart idea. Not smart. No matter how crazy it may seem, you got to listen to everybody. So the summary is you're new and you're just, what do you want to bring to it?
I'm doing this because I want to serve the people of Vermont, and not just Rutland County, but that's my priority. So most people that know me know that if I tell you I'll do something for you, I'll do it. So when I came into the legislature, I came with no preconceived notions. I'd heard a lot of different things that people didn't like about the legislature. Some of it was personal. I don't have those personal biases. I find that everybody in that state house likes doing what they're doing because they want to see Vermont changed for the better.
They dislike they're angry about what they're doing?
I don't think they're angry. Some of them may be, but I think
Why? What do they dislike about it?
no, they like what they're doing.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say
They
dislike.
like.
They like what they're doing. They're very good at it. There are a lot of different skill sets in there, which is what it takes to make a legislature function. Good ideas, something that they've seen in another state or community that worked, that we should consider.
Senator, I appreciate your time. I'd like to do this again sometime about when other issues and so forth. So I have to end right now. So let me make a conclusion. Well, we take our representatives and we expect them to solve our problems. Yes, but what we have to participate as citizens of Vermont. If we want to improve the way we live, the way we work, where we play, we're going to have to participate. We're going to have to do projects that consider the common good. You know what I mean? If you have a project, you have to say to yourself, is that project going to be interesting to young people? Should that project be in addition to that project, more affordable housing? Should that project be another daycare center? We have to consider those things. That's the common good. That's how the public can appreciate and actually help what our representatives are doing. That's the final conversation. Consider the common good. They're considering the common good. We have to as citizens. With that, I'm Lou Scott. This is Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you. Until next time, thank you.